Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending our pre-proposal meeting for the Market Study and Economic Development Strategy RFP. I just wanted to go over a few things about the contract itself, and then I'm going to turn it over to Natalie, who's going to talk about the content. So just a reminder that we are due on November 2nd by 11 a.m. Or I'm sorry, at 11 a.m., no later. And I will be receiving one complete electronic copy of the proposals. So I encourage you to not send an email with it at 10:58, just in case it takes a while for the file to load and to the email to come through to me. So be sure to give yourselves plenty of time, because anything coming in after then will not be accepted, even if you sent it earlier. So again, plan ahead, plan accordingly. Like I said, everything's due November 2nd. After this pre-proposal meeting, we'll be addressing any questions, anything that comes up in an addendum that will be out no later than the end of the week. You do have till the 26th to continue to ask any questions, but we will be putting an addendum out with questions that have come in and questions on this webinar, like I said, by the end of the week. I think that's all I have for you. Natalie is going to now take over and talk about the RFP content in itself, and she's going to let you know how to ask any questions that we can answer at the end. So it's all yours, Natalie.
Thank you so much, Gina, and welcome everyone. Happy Wednesday. It is Wednesday, right? At least I hope it is. Then we're all in the right place. So for our discussion today, and I'm going to share my screen so that you can see the brief presentation that we're going to make for today. So just give me 1 second. Okay. All right, I believe everyone can see my screen. I'm going to just make it a little bit bigger for me. All right, so yes, we just went over a brief overview of the solicitation process, and I'm sure if you have questions again about that, we can answer it at the end. And we're going to just do a brief background, history, mission and goals of our department, and then I'm going to highlight a few areas of the RFP that you may have questions about before opening it up for Q&A with you all. And of course, I do encourage you to utilize the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen for this webinar, or also using the chat function. We will read the questions aloud, but please stay muted throughout. So let's get started. So this is an unprecedented opportunity for the town, as it's the first major work of this department. It's better used, of course, to understand our competitiveness in the region and our ability to grow our business economy. And as you know, the work of business, or economic development rather, is really diverse, and it involves any effort really to make the community more business friendly and attractive. And so we're really looking forward to using the market study to help us understand how we can have a competitive advantage, or rather, what are our competitive disadvantages to being in this particular market, and how can we better provide services to our business community and grow our local economy. So you may already know and be familiar with this area, but just in case you aren't, we are an independent town in Fairfax County, which is the largest in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and we're frequently included on the top of best places to live in Virginia lists. Well, the town is also really located centrally. It's about 14 miles from Washington, D.C., and we have neighbors that are growing rapidly around us in the Northern Virginia area, meaning in terms of density and in population, so including Merrifield, Reston, Fairfax City, Oakton, and of course, Tysons. So Vienna is also primarily residential. It's single family home dominated in this location, but as a community, we're really looking to grow our businesses, and we want to really consider our commercial areas, and we want to make sure that we're diversifying in those locations as well. Now, one other thing that you may know about this map is that because of our central location, we're also in the middle of two major airports, which again, if you visited this region, then you would have either been to maybe Dulles National or Ronald Reagan. And then there are a few outliers that go to BWI, which is in Maryland, but still pretty accessible here from the town. So something to really remember as you present your proposals is that this is a completely new division in the town, and we are starting from the ground up. So just like any startup or any business, you're going to need foundational documents, resources, and tools to help steer the course. So again, as I said before, that this is really about focusing on diversification, making sure that we're resilient. I mean, specifically after coming out or still in the midst of a health crisis, but we still want to be able to enhance and generate tax revenue and to be able to support our government services. And so the project or the final deliverable will really be about anchoring and making sure that mission and the vision and the goals are really a reality that's felt by the residents, but absolutely the business community, potential site selectors, landlords, and other stakeholders. And so in January of last year, a request was made from the town to Fairfax County to support this project, and it was accepted, in which the county will be supporting it also up to 50% in terms of funding. And that was around January 2019 that proposal or request to the county was made. And you'll notice that in the timeline of milestones, in November 2019, I was hired in the position of Economic Development Manager. And now, of course, in March of 2020, we had that state of emergency declared due to the health crisis, and it did send us back a little bit in delay of this particular project deliverable. But this has long been a project that the town has wanted to do, and they have been talking about it since even before I arrived. So we're really excited to get the ball rolling. So as you know, there are two main deliverables for this project. Part one is the market study. Part two is the economic development strategy. And you may have a few questions, which I'm going to try to highlight some of the areas of the RFP that are, I wouldn't say more significant than any other part of the RFP, because it's all pretty significant. As you know, it's a big project for the town, but here are some areas that we can provide some highlights to. So as I mentioned before, this project and this department is brand new, meaning that we are truly grassroots, trying to develop data, resources. And so the consultant coming in will also have to understand that there may be some areas that we need to work with the county to get you some resources. But every division and department in the town is going to be dedicated to providing those resources to you and data as you request it. So for example, the vacant spaces and vacancy rates, I do not have a list of vacant spaces in the town. When I arrived, that's something that we want to work on. So that will be something that we would hope that the consultant that works with this project will be working on. In addition to that, the real estate assessment, you may want to understand what the real estate assessments are across single family, townhomes, commercial real estate. The real estate division does not belong in the town. It's a part of the county. And so because we work with the county, we can absolutely work together to receive that information on your behalf. And if there are other data needs that we don't have direct access to, we're happy to do our best to work with the consultant to get that. Now, in addition to market analysis and data that you may need, you may also have read that the Planning and Zoning Department is undergoing a project with a consultant to help the town reorganize and update their zoning code, subdivisions, chapter 17 and 18. And so really briefly, I want to stop share and share another screen with you. So just give me 1 second here. Just going to open up a website that will help us elaborate a little bit more on this topic. Aha, there it is. Okay. So right now, Planning and Zoning is working with a consultant that started in July 2020. The project is going to take about 18 months. And in the RFP for the Planning and Zoning RFP, rather, they did say that the Economic Development Department would be potentially working with a consultant to do a market study and an economic development strategy. And they have asked that their consultant works closely with the consultant that is chosen for this project. What we mean by working with is that additionally, you'll just be sharing information where necessary to inform the projects. So for example, when we get started with a consultant, it would be probably prudent to have a meeting that has the team for the zoning code and the team for the market study and economic development strategy to meet to discuss methodologies, the process, just kind of do a kickoff of how do we intend to go about doing this work and what areas are important to them and what areas are important to us. And I think over the course of completing this particular RFP, we would have maybe 1 or 2 midpoint check-ins just to see where we are and to stay connected. That's essentially it. I am happy to walk through, or if there are more meetings that are needed to make sure that we have cohesion, we can make it work. But that's essentially what that means. We want to make sure that the information that's relevant is shared amongst the consultants so that the town both has a zoning code update that takes into consideration the economic development goals and initiatives, because as well as I do, that any zoning code is going to have a huge impact on the value of the economic development division, department, or whatever, and how well they're able to execute the goals that the town would like to have. So it is very important that we have that great communication. I am on the website that the project for the planning and zoning team has put together. If you want information about what is going on currently with the zoning code update, this is the website to go to. It's public. It's called viennava.gov. And this is where the zoning code and subdivision ordinance updates will take place. It is the place where they have chosen to do their online engagement. And you can see where they've had past meetings. Actually, the first and third Fridays of the month, they have decided to do open webinars for the community. Mostly the first one is focused on residential. The third one of the month is focused on commercial. So you are free to join those and understand a little bit more about what's going on. This is where it is. And the team that's leading it in terms of staff team, they're all here and you can connect with them via this email address. Okay, I'm gonna stop share of that screen and go back to our slide. So give me 1 moment to pull that up, please. Okay. Okay, so the last thing here that I want to bring up is around community engagement. Now, in the RFP, it is pretty open-ended on community engagement for a reason. We definitely want to see what ideas that the consultants have in terms of engaging our business community and relevant stakeholders on these topics. Now, I am absolutely sure that whomever we pick, in terms of what will be relevant to us, is understanding your experience doing market studies and economic development strategies. So in your previous experiences, what stakeholder groups have you worked with? What do you recommend now that we're in a health crisis? How do you perceive that we can connect with them? What are some interesting and safe, socially distant ways to do that? That would be something that would be appropriate for the proposal. So it's fine if you don't know the name of specific this community group. We're happy to help list out which groups in the community are priority for us, but there are general stakeholder groups that are common to this process. What are they? Pull them out, and how can we engage them? And we can engage them primarily through, in person, but socially distant. How is it? What about webinars? What about Zoom? There's multiple ways to do that. So please list that. I don't believe I have any other slides other than the question and answer one. So we can stop share. Sorry, let me stop share here. And we can begin to have our question and answer. And let me start with what I can see from the question and answer screen. What are your specific high priority stakeholders? So like I said, I don't have to run through the list of all the stakeholder groups because there are several community groups, right, in the town. But I would say think about the business community, because this one is primarily focused on how do we enhance our businesses. So, and we're a town, we have a town council. So do we engage them? What about landlords, tenants, So I'm thinking just in general, being able to think about those stakeholder groups that are within the economic development world. Then I'm going to answer the next question. Would it be possible to get a list of the consultants? Yes. After this presentation, we will have a list of the attendees, and we will share that information with everyone, including the recording for today's presentation. It will be available via audio, and it will also be available via video. Although you guys don't need to see me again, just use audio. It's perfectly fine. What is the anticipated start and end date of this project? So we anticipate going, and maybe this is a question, actually, I'm not going to answer it. This is a question better for our procurement officer. Gina, how can we answer this question?
So the anticipated start date right now, based on the timeline that we have for the proposals coming back, giving us time to review them, rank them, do interviews, and then you add in the holidays in there. I believe we're looking at going to council in early January. So it would be no sooner than January, mid-January, before things got started.
Okay, perfect. And in terms of how long, I personally anticipate that this is a 6 to 8 month process, if not shorter. We just want substantive work. So as long as the work is done, the end. We did not put an end date in the RFP, I don't believe. So that is where I personally fall onto this, the answer to this question. Assuming the timeline of the zoning update work with CalFE zoning will follow through 2021, yes. Can we tie an outreach and engagement process with Code Create Vienna? I'm so excited that you asked that. Yes. So yesterday I actually was speaking to my colleague in the planning and zoning office that is overseeing the community engagement process with the consultant. And we did talk about ways for us to bridge the gap, to work together so that there isn't engagement fatigue. So they're still in the stages of basically deciding which dates, what specifically do they want to do. So there's still time to engage and figure out how to merge. And that's why those conversations in the beginning, the kickoff with our consultant, or my consultant, can I say that, and planning and zoning consultant is going to be important because we need to tie in where necessary. For the vacant spaces and rate, would a secondary source be adequate, such as CoStar, or are you hoping consultant will collect primary data? I have secondary data. I use CoStar every day. because it's a lot of money, so I have to use it every day. So yes, I use CoStar as secondary source, but we really need a primary source. So it would be great if the consultant can help make sure that happens, or at least begin the stages of us setting up a database that tracks that information, because I know you won't be with us forever. But I'm happy to share information from CoStar with the consultant. That would make sense for sure. Okay. The next question is, are you requiring in-person public meetings, or is Vienna still using virtual meetings for public engagement? Right now, most of Vienna, or rather all of Vienna in terms of town of Vienna government, is virtual. We're doing virtual meetings. So we're not requiring in-person public meetings. In fact, we're shying away from big engagements with the public. There are outliers though. So for example, this weekend, this department is hosting a series of engagements called Vienna Shop and Stroll. We are putting a focus on our shopping centers, and over the course of the next few months, there will be select Saturdays, but we will ask the public to socially distant, but still participate in shopping local and coming in person to the shopping centers. So I do think that there is room to be, yes, primarily virtual, at least in terms of the consultant-town relationship, especially depending on where you are. But there are times where I do think it would be prudent to be in person, like when we first meet council. So there are times that we can discuss that, I think, when it's prudent to be in person. And in terms of public engagement, I think we can talk about that as well. But yes, there are virtual ways to do it. Please list them. The next question is, should any legal insurance exceptions be required? Are proposers required to use the exceptions form to submit, or will this process be undertaken in negotiation? Gina, do you have an answer to this?
Yes, please submit, excuse me, any exceptions you have to the RFP, to any of the terms and conditions, along with the RFP that is required to come with the RFP.
Okay.
Or the proposal that you're returning, yeah.
Okay. The next question is, the RFP is interested in having the proponent understand, evaluate neighboring jurisdictions that have potential to impact or become economic generators for the town. Do you have any specific jurisdictions in mind that are a must to be included? Yes, Tyson's. Everything else, I would like to hear from the consultant. How far outside the town would you like us to consider? I will leave that also to understanding first what the consultant is bringing to the table in terms of how far we should consider. That is something that I would rely on in terms of understanding that from you and your proposal. That's something I would want to know from you. What do you think that we should consider? Any other questions? I believe that we've answered everyone in the Q&A. I don't see any questions in the chat. If we have not answered your question, can you please let us know? You can put that in the chat if you don't feel like the answer was sufficient, you need more information from us. Okay, I do have another question. Let's see. Does the town have strong relationships with, or has the town previously engaged major property owners along commercial corridors on other planning processes? Does the town anticipate having issues engaging the property owners? Great question. Before I arrived, I do not know how often the town engaged their property owners. I gather that it was not very often. However, since the pandemic, we have tried to engage property owners. So for example, in the very beginning, we had a webinar focused on property owners in the health crisis to determine and understand where they were with their tenants. We also did a survey of our property owners more recently to understand what issues were they experiencing. So to me, those are major opportunities to try to engage property owners. I also can see a situation where planning and zoning may have engaged property owners in a much more vibrant, visible way, especially now that the zoning code update is happening. But like I said, before I arrived, I'm not aware of a very strong relationship there. So I do think that there will be room to say, we want to engage you. Please let us know how you feel about the next 3-5 years, or even right now about the town. Oh, also one other thing I want to note is that some of I think I just talked about the Vienna Shop and Stroll series. We are engaging property owners to conduct that series. So I am trying as much as possible through this department to re-engage them in different ways that benefit them and their bottom line. And I think, I think over the last 10, how long have I been there? 11 months, that we have tried to engage property owners as much as possible. Okay, to what extent does the town coordinate, collaborate on economic development strategy with the county? I would say we don't, because we just got here, and we do not collaborate directly with economic development strategy. So one thing that you should know is Fairfax County EDA, Economic Development Authority, is a private-public partnership separate from the county, but the economic development director of that authority was my former boss. So I do have a direct relationship with him. And economic development, of course, in terms of how we collaborate with the county, I think we have started to move forward in a direction where we are collaborating more. For example, we just did a RISE grant with the county, and that is through the County Economic Initiatives Office, not the Economic Development Authority. So the Economic Initiatives Office is run from the county level, and we did work with them on a grant. Is that economic development strategy? Not to me, but it is a sign that if we do want to align, I think that they would be willing and able to help us. I've also reached out to the EDA, Economic Development Authority, when I first arrived to get some resources to talk about understanding the workforce or to understand what data do they have. But what I've understood is that the town is kind of on their own in assessing their boundaries. The county looks at things from a very macro level, where we really want to look at things from a micro level often. And so sometimes the data does not completely fit that. So that's just something to know. Any other questions? Okay, I'll wait a second. I don't have any background music, so.
I also do want to say, if you have any questions after this, or if someone is watching this video and did not attend, please email questions to me directly at gilpin, Gilpin, at viennava.gov. And I will either get them answered myself if I can, or send it on to Natalie, and we will get back to you in the form of an addendum.
We did receive a question in the chat, Gina, so I'll say it aloud. What would you say the biggest challenges will be for the community in advancing economic development or future strategy? I think that the biggest challenges for the community has already started. This is a new department, so understanding economic development and the value is going to be a part of the process. It's educating the community on what is economic development and why did the town feel like now is the time to bring this in. So I think that's one of the bigger challenges, to make sure that we're bringing in a level of understanding, not just for residents, for the businesses, and for our policymakers. I think all three areas need to be aligned about what the goals are for advancing and what role do they individually play as stakeholders in advancing the strategy. I also think we can't advance strategy without the goals being aligned. And I think finding alignment will also be one of the challenges. But I think that's why we start with education first. What is it? And I've tried to do that since I've been here, but I think it will also help the market study specifically, in my mind, will be able to be a marker to help facilitate the education of the community, and then we can talk about how we reach those goals. Any other questions? It's hard because I can't see you all right now, but Gina, I don't see any other questions in the Q&A. And I don't see any other questions in the chat that you and I have.
I see one. Oh, I'm sorry. That's the one you just read.
Okay.
All right. I had it covered up with my Q&A.
No worries. Okay. Well, Gina, do we have anything else for
I think that's
attendees?
Thank you all for attending.
Yes, we will upload all the necessary documents to the website. And of course, you ask for attendee list. You'll get the presentation, and you'll also have access to this recording. And thank you very much. I look forward to maybe meeting some of you in the future. Thank you.